Oh. Does this work? Does this work? Wait, where's my game? There it is. Okay. So, hello everybody. Hello. Excuse me, my microphone is hitting me in the face. So, who do we have here? We have user variable little big Willie Jackson. What's up? Mr. V8, IO, Dio, and Jackson. How are you all doing? So, we're on, if you want to just join to talk, it's not going to be on the live stream, but if you want to join in on my Discord, we're just in a voice chat. So, I'm not going to be talking during the Q&A because people get upset when I do that. So I'm just going to watch it with you guys, and we'll be in the voice chat on the Discord if you want to join. So that is what we're going to do. I just have Stormworks up right now because the live stream is not quite ready, and I'm talking. So I'm going to go ahead and switch it over to the live stream, and then we'll wait for it to begin in about 10 minutes, I guess. But I'm in the I'm in the Discord chatting, so if you want to come in there, feel free. So let me go ahead and pop it over to the other screen. Wait, should I have the music? Yeah, I should have the music. I have the music. Copy this. And here we go. Mic is quiet. My mic is quiet? That is so weird. You're right, it is quiet. Okay, well, I'll try to talk louder here, but I'm going to go to my Discord and chat. Here we go. No cursing, guys, okay? If I bring you into the live thing, don't curse. Just FYI. I shouldn't have to turn you down. Come on, you're all...
Hey, can we
Stuff like
say
that.
like
Come on.
pirate swear
Golly
words?
gosh,
Like
what a obstructive
like
thing.
scallywag, like
Say
these
it.
scallywags. Arr!
There you go. Hey guys, I brought the Discord in. We are in the Discord. Hey Mountain Dew, how you doing? Blue Space? We're in the Discord, by the way. FYI, Dio. We're in the Discord. Chatting on voice.
Ooh.
Waiting for
Can
it
you
to
hear
start.
me?
Hello.
Yeah, who's that? Can't say names.
Triple Eight.
Who?
Adventure 888. Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Hi. Okay, thank you.
So we're all waiting as soon as the show starts. I will mute all the mics so people won't have to hear them talking over
Yes.
Deltoid's beautiful voice.
Hopefully it's Deltars.
He's a beautiful man.
He is. I want to meet him in person. I'm sure he's great in person. Just not so great on the internet. But
I'd be curious to know how
I would
old he
agree.
is.
I would agree.
I know how old he is. God, I know
Oh.
everything. What's wrong with you people?
I'm pretty
How-
sure.
how old is
I don't know.
Well, you're a
Let me
hacker.
check it. He's 38. He's 38 years old.
He's only 38.
38? Oh my god. He's a developer, bro.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
He's only 38. Well, okay.
Drum, aren't
Only.
you younger than that?
What? I thought he'd be like 30.
You're like 30. 32. He's quiet.
I'm 21, guys. I'm
Yes.
probably the youngest one here. Yeah, I'm 21.
I'll be turning 66 next week.
Oh, you're open about it
no
now.
fucking way.
Yeah.
You're 66, bro?
Yeah.
No way.
66, I look
No
like Santa
way.
Claus.
Send me a picture. Private DM.
Whoa, hey, whoa, that's a little...
Yes,
Whoa,
and do
whoa,
a face
whoa,
reveal.
No, I'm just kidding. Don't send me a
Well,
face.
you know what? You can
You're
subscribe
good.
to my OnlyFans instead. How's that?
Okay, I'm
Whoa.
down. I'll pay $10. $10 max.
It's $14.99. Come on.
And I pay 100.
For the record, you still have more hair
I'll
on your
pay
head than
extra.
I do.
I don't know.
Despite
gentlemen.
being,
I wear
what,
I
a
wear,
third
wear lots of hats and
One-
wigs.
like in fantasy features.
Yeah. Dude, man, I have given up with Frantic and Charlotte. Every time I pop in there, it's just like Dad right out of their mouth. Hi, Dad. I'm like, okay, I give up. I'm dead. I give up.
I was wondering, like, you never used to be so open about it. You were very
I-
cagey about your age.
Charlotte has like just, I mean, not Charlotte. Frantic has just battered me on every video we do. It's like, okay, Dad. Okay, Dad. I was like, okay. I'll just take it. I'll take it.
Well, you're what? 3 times his age?
Yeah.
Twice?
Dio, yes, welcome back, Dio. Hello.
We've got
Hello,
Valkyries in the
Iroquois.
chat. In Space DLC, wait, is the Space DLC worth it for Stormworks? How do you guys think? Is it worth it?
Yeah.
for
I'm in-
Stormworks?
I'm
well,
enjoying
I'd
it.
say
Yeah.
it's really well. What do you think? Because well, if someone doesn't really go up high, if they just use aircraft and they don't go to space, no, because there's an invisible barrier around 20,000 meters, I think. If I'm correct.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
And you can't go any higher. So if you want to just go higher, I
It's a
guess
deadly
fine.
barrier, too,
Not
I
worth
might
it.
add.
Yeah.
If you fly into it, you
Yeah.
will wreck your vehicle.
I think
you
the
will-
only
you will
negative thing is you cannot orbit the moon, correct?
Hey, Dad, I'm in a live stream right now.
That sucks. That is really disappointing.
It is yeah. I
The
mean,
orbit mechanic was something
Oh,
most people were really happy about, but then there were no orbit mechanics, so...
you knew it wasn't going to be true orbital mechanics when they made it
but I
anyway.
thought that you could stay
That's
above the moon
Yeah.
at least, but you can't, right? That's correct,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you sort of can.
No, no,
You
no,
actually made a video about it.
No, because you can only there's like 3 zones, right? There's like moon
Well, yeah.
gravity
It's
and
a
Earth
high
gravity,
orbit.
and then there's like that fake
Ish.
space in between.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
a high orbit.
It's basically.
Yeah, but it's like super
You're a
high.
stationary orbit.
It's not like I think it was Red Pug was playing with the orbital stuff, and what he found out is every time.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Oh,
Hear
it's
music.
starting.
it's music.
I hear
All right,
music.
I'm gonna shut up.
Every minute.
Music. I don't hear music.
I mean, at least on the stream.
Thank you.
Alright, that's
I heard it definitely.
recording.
This is very dramatic music. Very dramatic.
Fishing music.
I don't
Oh,
hear
this
any
is
music.
this is a trailer music for the
Is it
Space
fishing
Museum.
music? Fishing?
I don't know, man.
But anyways, he found out that
This
like
is a
if you try to go
museum.
towards the moon, you either get pulled back to the middle space really hard, or you get pulled back to the moon. So you
Yeah,
can't
it
stay.
depends a lot on your
Yeah.
vertical velocity. So you can slow your vertical velocity down pretty low, and stay in
Wow.
a. You're right. You will slowly accelerate and drift away from that body, be it the moon or the Earth. However, it is possible. So, yeah, you will eventually drift into that middle ether kind of area. But if you're going at a relatively specific speed, you can maintain a given distance from the moon or the Earth. accelerate.
All right, chat. I'm gonna hit our box. This basically is overwhelming. We are hitting the first chat on the Discord server. It's 127. Whatever. So I'm gonna do this. Here we go. We're
Like,
back again because it was too loud, so now I muted it, and they haven't started yet.
Oh,
so.
I got the page. I got the page.
Yeah, it's something/questions, right?
Yep.
Let me
What is it?
put
What
in
is
the
it?
chat for you guys if you want to
Okay, I'm gonna
do
ask.
it. I'm gonna go. You have to log in. Make sure you guys log in with your Steam crap, and then you can do it. So here we go. I'm gonna put in the chat for you guys on the YouTube channel. I'll put it in the chat over here on the Discord too, if you care. If you care. But let's see here, chat. I'll put in the general. Where's general at? This doesn't have too many categories on this server. Not gonna lie. Let's do.
Wait, I think I can hear him
live
talking.
stream.
I saw I
Probably
can
See
hear
what
him.
you mean? I think you can hear them talking in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm recording, so maybe I'll be able to, like, I don't know.
Analyze
extract
it.
the audio.
Run it to the
use
computer.
AI. Yeah, exactly.
Are they talking?
There we go.
Use some hack attack. Oh,
Hello everyone.
Music's
Right,
on.
we are off. Welcome to the
Here.
developer
There it
questions and answers stream. I think this is loud enough. I'll make myself a little bit louder. I've turned the music off, so hopefully everyone can hear now. Yeah, let's get going. Right, I will just try and restart this video. I'm in OBS. You can click stop, you can click restart. It doesn't actually restart. Let's see, dragging it to the top. Nope, doesn't want to. Is it going to go to the start? It's not. We'll just watch the video from here. I've just got some pre-recorded video here. This is me playing a couple of hours ago with another one of the developers. And yeah, this is probably a 1 hour video. We'll probably go on longer than an hour, I don't know. But we've got this video, and that's simply because I cannot play a game and talk at the same time. I just can't do it. So yeah, we've got this pre-recorded video. It's just playing. It's with a bunch of add-ons that we found on the workshop. Some incredible add-ons here. So yeah, I'll probably talk about those a little bit as we go through. But yeah, let's get going. So we have planned for today's stream. In order to everyone to be able to ask their questions, to keep it fair, and also so that people don't get lost in the Discord, not the Discord chat, the stream chat on the right there. Sometimes that stream chat can really start to scroll quick if a lot of people are here. So it's probably better if we've kind of got a static list that everyone can see. So we have website set up where you can submit your questions. There is a character limit. I think it's 96 characters, so it's kind of short and sweet, but it's, I guess, so we can get through the questions without necessarily having to answer too many essays. And then there's also a limit of 1 question per person, and the idea here is so that we can have the chance to potentially answer everyone's questions. Yeah, we'll hopefully be able to get through. Obviously, if we do get through all the questions, we run out, then I'll press the reset button and we can start again. So let me get this text on screen here, which gives us the questions URL. Now, obviously, how does this work? Jesus. Right, let's try and get that in the corner here, and I'll obviously have to stick a bar over this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press record, and then there's the possibility of that's bigger than we need, isn't it? There we go. That's fine. So you've got the web address in the corner there. I am now recording, so this will go up as recorded on the YouTube channel as well. Cool. So yeah, you've got the website there, guys. Please do feel free to submit your questions there. I will bring up the web page onto the screen, and in fact I will share my view of the website as well here, so you can see. Let's delete our sample question there. I'm going to delete that question. And yeah, we've already got quite a lot of questions. Fantastic. You can see I've got a delete all questions button. Obviously we're only pressing that if we've answered them all. We've also got the shuffle button, so there's no rush. You know, we're not going to do it in order. We'll try and keep it fair, so we'll just randomly shuffle the questions in a few moments before we start answering them, and that'll just randomly reorder them and allow us to get to everyone's questions. Yeah, otherwise that's the website here. So I might stream some of this, but it's probably more interesting to have the game on screen with the address in the corner there. So yeah, let's get started. What I'll be trying to do, questions have been shuffled in a random order apparently, so if you refresh the questions page, you will be able to see everyone's questions that have been submitted. So please do check for duplicates before you post one, as it may of course already been asked and you don't want to waste your question. You can potentially use it later. And I suppose the other thing is, obviously, if you are watching this on YouTube, this is a pre-recorded video. If you're watching it on the Steam stream, then it's live. So don't try and submit questions if you're watching this on YouTube. That's all. Right, let's go. So I have shuffled the first question from Silo. What are the biggest challenges, limitations for larger vehicles that could be several kilometers in size? So I guess the description here is larger vehicles that could be several kilometers in size. That does sound like a very large vehicle. I'm not aware of real vehicles that would be that big. I think even the biggest aircraft carriers are only a few hundred meters. But certainly the challenge / limitation for vehicle size is the file size. I think it's the fact that the vehicles are saved as XML. Now we've kind of got some encoding inside the XML to compress the data down a bit, so we have reduced the vehicle size, but Stormworks vehicles are XML files, so they are stored as text, and they are in this structured tree data. So what happens is when we load our XML in, we do have to load the entire file into memory in one chunk to be able to read it. And if your vehicle file is 10 megabytes, that's fine. If your vehicle file is 100 megabytes or bigger, your computer might not be able to allocate that much memory in one go. So that starts to become an issue. So that is one of the main technical reasons, is loading and saving these files. Some people can do it and some people can't do it, and that's related to how much memory you've got. So vehicle size is a tricky one, and then I think also, the fact that you've kind of got this cubic relationship between vehicle size and number of blocks, right? If you've got a 10-meter vehicle compared to a 20-meter vehicle, you can say, well, that vehicle's twice as big, but it's actually 8 times larger in terms of the number of blocks. So the numbers kind of start to explode a little bit. I mean, that is stuff we're thinking about with future games. With Stormworks, the XML files are XML files, right, guys? Like, I don't think we would probably be looking to look to cleverer formats in the future. Maybe formats where we could stream the data in. With XML format, you can't really stream it in. It's the data's in a tree. Ideally, we'd use streamed formats in the future, but everyone's vehicles are in XML. It's too late to change it. So I think I've answered that one. Let's click Mark answered. Next question by Meiji Bag. Will we ever get too wide small tracks? Medium tracks are a bit too big. So this is a great question, because yeah, the too wide parts, right? There's so many parts, like, I wish it was too wide version. There's the 1 wide version, there's the 3 wide version. We need the 2 wide. Now I think we already have 2 wide tracks. I think we added this, didn't we? The tank tracks, we've got 2 wide ones. I'm pretty sure we did. But typically they weren't added initially because we've got this issue, and it does take a bit of explaining, but once you understand it, it kind of makes sense that the number of blocks wide a component needs to be, it kind of needs to be an odd number of blocks if that component can potentially be put in the center line of a vehicle, and that's because the seat is an odd number of blocks wide. The player's camera is in the center of a block when they're in a seat. So for like a vehicle to be able to be symmetrical with a seat in the center, it does need to have this odd number of block component in the middle, otherwise things won't be symmetrical. And people need symmetry in their vehicles. It's important. So if you're making a 1-seater vehicle with a seat in the center, or a 3-seater vehicle with a seat in the center, or whatever, it needs to be centered up. I will just note in the chat, some people are asking questions. You do need to sign into the website. It uses the Steam OpenID sign-in, so that just obviously you need to own the game. So if you click on the sign-in button, it'll take you through to Steam. You will log in through Steam, just like if you're using the support tracker, and then when it takes you back to the website, we do just check that you do actually own the game before allowing you to ask a question. But that is the only requirement, I believe, is that you own the game. So yes, we do have 2 wide tracks, I believe. Will we get more survival mechanics? Oh, I think I need more specific question than that. I think I get the survival mechanics we're talking about. We've obviously got health, but hunger is a good one. Temperature we kind of have, but I think it could probably be kind of in more detail potentially. I think hunger is the main mechanic, right? You can see on this video here, we're actually using, I can't remember who authored it, but it's the hunger, is it CUH's mod? I can't remember, but did we see we're at 53 of 100 hunger here, and I'm actually trying to eat this fish at the moment, but it's not on the list of edible items, so I couldn't actually eat it. It's a cool mechanic. I was playing with this mod thinking, yeah, this is actually like quite nice. It's a simple mechanic, but I'm now thinking about, okay, well, I don't want to die. I need to be thinking about my character's requirements. I suppose sometimes in survival games you need to be able to sleep as well, and then there's certain like injuries that you want to recover from and so on. I don't know whether this is something we are going to prioritize as a direction for Stormworks, but I do like it. I do like the ideas, and as with a lot of this stuff, I'm not going to say never, because there's just been so many occasions where I've thought, no, that's something we're never going to do, and then next thing you know, we're doing it and it's working really well. So I don't know, but I think in the immediate future, I don't know, we'll talk more about the general direction of the updates, but we've just got so much, we still got so much to do. got a load of stuff going on. Survival mechanics would be nice. It's a great suggestion. I don't know if we'll have more survival mechanics, but I do love my survival games, and I think, you know, that's potentially something that we'd be interested with. Not Stormworks 2 as well. We can discuss a little bit of that as we go through. I'll mark that as answered. Are there plans for a petrol engine? I would say there are not. I think there's, I guess, the level of detail that Stormworks goes into, I'm not convinced that we're really going to get a meaningful distinction between petrol and diesel engines. Obviously, we're not modelling real diesel engines at the moment. These are, you know, a small, medium, and large engine. You know, it's not a specific diesel engine, so it hasn't gone into a huge level of like technical accuracy and detail there. Anyway, I mean, to be honest, all the engine stuff I'd like we would do completely differently if we did them again. But in terms of creating a distinction between petrol and diesel, I think it just introduces more complexity for players where they've got to have a different fluid type, and then are the engines really going to be different except for the fluid type they use? So I don't think that's going to be useful to players other than this cosmetic, the word being different, diesel, petrol. You know, I think it would be difficult for us to deliver something that was truly a petrol engine from a mechanical point of view. And it's all about mechanics with the Stormworks design. We're always thinking about, okay, how does this push the design of vehicles forward? How is this like mechanically taking us to a new place in terms of stuff you've got to think about? I will click marked as answered on that one as well. Will there be co-op workbenches? It's been on the board for ages. We talked about it, we thought we were going to do it, we kind of looked at it a bit more, we decided that it's going to be a huge amount of work. The game's fundamentally made without co-op workbenches. It's something I've experienced jumping onto multiplayer servers. I've been kind of surprised. I never imagined that the game, the part of the game would be such a big part of the game. As you jump on a server and there's like 4 or 5 people stood around the workbench, they're all building. And I never thought, oh, well, multiplayer is obviously for going and crewing a vehicle and going on an adventure together. And then actually, a lot of players really enjoy the building while talking to other players, building and helping other players learn to build, building and then showing off what they're building to other players, and having that kind of interactions and the kind of like social interaction with the building stuff. So co-op building is a major feature that I really wish was in Stormworks. It's a big feature to add, so while I'm not saying that we'll never do it, it's not immediately on our to-do list. Again, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to add that into not Stormworks 2 than it is to retrofit and rebuild the vehicle editor to work with this kind of multiplayer aspect. Will you add fishing nets? So we've had some fantastic feedback on fishing overall. We've obviously, a bunch of the YouTubers have jumped on, and we've had several videos from 454. Prof Incognito's done several videos. Captain Cockerel's Stormworks Unlimited, and a lot of the feedback is kind of common and consistent, and then other stuff, everyone's kind of got their own ideas for how to do stuff. Obviously, fishing nets is a big one. When we released the fishing rod stuff, I think we were clear that, you know, we don't think that fishing rod is the only type of fishing that players are asking for, and there's actually, when people ask, say, please add fishing, they actually mean commercial fishing, or they actually mean crabbing, or, you know, there's a bunch of different stuff. So we're very aware of that, and I think that there certainly is scope for, I mean, to be honest, there's still scope for a fishing DLC. I don't think we'll do it. I think what we'd probably want to do is just do some more fishing free major updates. But I think there's so much, especially with the community feedback we've had. It's really allowed us to think what the logical next steps with fishing would be. I think the positive feedback has been really useful, because you can see there is a lot of demand for more fishing and fishing mechanics and more in-depth fishing. certainly looking at the game, the commercial fishing side, I mean, the idea of designing your own commercial fishing boat, it's the perfect framework for it as a format. So yeah, it would be great to do that. We would like to add fishing nets, and we'd like to do a bunch of other new fishing features too. Really, we're just listening to players on what they think is important. But I think fishing net is quite high on the list. If I quickly dive off to, I maybe won't broadcast my my to-do list, but I'll just have a quick look at the list of other stuff that I noted down had been requested for commercial fishing, because I have been watching videos and reading a support tracker with a notepad, writing stuff down with the task board in front of me, adding like task ideas to discuss with the development team and stuff like that. So we've got quite a few stuff. Obviously there's fishing nets, there's, I suppose, fishing biomes, where you've got like different fish in different locations and potentially shoals and things like that. Players have also been asking for fish finders. They've been asking for lobster pots, crab pots. They've been asking for more in-depth fishing rod mechanics, maybe the ability to set the float depth, the kind of Red Dead Redemption style fishing, where you kind of got to fight the fish a little bit and reel out and not just reel in constantly. We've also got rod holders, trawling lines. There's, I suppose, Captain Cockerels went into a lot of detail on, I guess, lifting up the lobster pots and how you handle the ropes that's associated with that. And you know, these are important details, important mechanics. So yeah, you know, we're very interested in all of that, and we're thinking about it all. But yeah, we obviously do want to get it right, don't we? So these are all ideas. I doubt we'll do everything I just discussed, but I would like to do some of it, and I'd like to maybe do more fishing updates, or at least another fishing update, and we'll just see where it goes from there. So at some point in the future, hopefully we'll be seeing another fishing update. Let's go back to the question list. Next question: will you ever fix Steam to how it used to be? So I think this is done now, and it has been done for a while. I certainly have apologised already for the disruption we had with the space update, and to be honest, it has taken us way too long to get Steam working again. I think we did add obviously the Steam presets, and that was following on from us establishing, you know, we did have a set of Steam engines that we would load up in the old version of the game, pre-Space DLC, and then we'd load them up in the post or the current version that we were working on, and we'd look at the differences, and we tuned until we had consistent behavior between both. So I'm reasonably confident that Steam is how it used to be. I mean, with the caveat, we have removed the pressure value from Steam engines. The pressure value was obviously pre compressed gases update. The pressure value was just kind of a faked kind of number that was just calculated based on how much fluid was in there. Now we're using a different, like a more physically accurate pressure value that's in the unit of atmospheres, and so the old pressure value doesn't make sense on Steam engines, but they don't overpressure and explode anymore, so it really isn't a useful value anyway. So yeah, I think as far as I'm concerned, Steam is pretty close to how it was, and it has been for some time. This isn't something we've just fixed last week. I think our testing happened, I think before the new year. We were fairly happy that we had restored Steam to how it used to be. Next question: add airport to airport passenger and cargo pallet missions ? By user captain. So this is a great one. I think airport to airport passenger and cargo pallet missions. So we've certainly got passenger missions and we've certainly got transport missions, but we could have different containers that you've got to move, and we certainly could add a better passenger system as well. I think with the passenger missions, they're kind of a fixed thing, aren't they? They're not like the cargo transport missions. The cargo transport missions are kind of like a continuous thing. The airport to airport stuff are set missions where you've got to deliver some turbine engineers to a turbine and so on. I don't know whether we're going to start developing PAX content ourselves, as in passenger transport, kind of passenger freight style missions where you've kind of got like a take people from one location to another location, because I think that is certainly outside of the scope of the set of features we've got at the moment. And while I'm open to new features and while we do want to make the game better, I think currently our strategical focus is on one, like getting on top of the quality of the game and really focusing on reducing the number of bugs, and then not introducing new bugs. That's very, very important. And then as we introduce new features, I think we're very kind of conscious that we perhaps want to be a bit more sensible about the stuff. Not to say that we're not being ambitious, but I think we get excited. We do love Stormworks and we love making the game. It is great fun. And when you're introducing these new systems and stuff, it is very, very exciting to be imagining what we can do and going through the steps. But ultimately, sometimes maybe we get too excited, we try and be too ambitious, and we end up doing stuff that doesn't really fit with the existing codes, doesn't really fit with the existing engine, and ultimately introduces bugs which we've then got to fix over the following months and years. And I think we just kind of want to eliminate that. So certainly adding airport to airport passenger system. I also think this has probably been done by, I remember seeing a while ago some very good packs add-ons that some players or a player had created, and so I think this has kind of already been done by the community. Does it really benefit in us making a vanilla version? I don't necessarily think so. The cargo pallet missions I think has also been done by the community. Certainly I think we're open to that stuff if players are playing a lot of the transport mechanic missions and stuff. I don't know. These aren't bad suggestions, these are good suggestions. I do like them. I like the idea of doing that kind of gameplay. I just don't know how long it would be before it starts to work its way up the priority list, because we do have quite a lot of priorities at the moment. Next question from user Non. Why can't we fly to the Arctic from space? So you are meant to be able to. I think the magic of going into space, it kind of makes sense in kind of quantum space in terms of like, so the world now wraps from, is it minus 128 kilometers to plus 128 kilometers in the kind of the horizontal directions the world now wraps around if you go off the edge. So when you descend from space, you should be somewhere in that zone, and I don't think it clips you in any closer. I think it is when you go a certain height, and then we stop wrapping you within minus 128 to plus 128, and we start wrapping you in a much larger area, which is space. And that's only horizontally. Like as you go vertically, there's kind of no wrapping that happens. So why you can't fly from Arctic space, I think you should be able to. If you can't, please do create an issue on the tracker, because I think that would be as far as on the top of my head, that would be a defect. You should be able to descend out of space and potentially end up over the Arctic, potentially end up in the middle of the ocean. You're not necessarily going to be descending and appearing above the center of the map. That I wouldn't expect that. Next question. Will you ever fix the issue with boilers not going above 2.5 ATM pressure? I'm going to say this is argumentative. I think boilers do go above 2.5 ATM pressure atmospheres. You might be referring, of course, to the pressure output. That's the old pressure value that is based on how much fluid they're in. We're actually going to remove that node because it doesn't make sense anymore. But that was the old like pseudo pressure system that we were using before we actually had proper atmospheric compressed gas mechanics and compressed gas calculations. Now we've got that stuff. If you hover the fluid port on a boiler, you will see the actual values go up to potentially 60 atmospheres on the boiler. Next question: how are you making sure after the space DLC that such mishaps would not happen again? Well, we've covered this in detail in the in a few posts that we've made, and basically there's a few things, right? I think it took a few things to kind of go wrong at once for kind of the space DLC issues to happen, and so I think we're I suppose responding to that with multiple different strategies. So let's try and get through them. I might not remember them all, but certainly we've got the unit testing now. So we've got our new unit testing framework, and what we do there is when the automated build system does a build of the game, it also then runs the game in unit test mode. That feeds a bunch of vehicle files to it. What it does is it loads the vehicle in. The vehicle just does what it wants. Most of the vehicles are just programmed to just turn themselves on automatically and start driving or whatever. And then there's various like special logic gates that record an on-off value or a number value, and then the data from those get recorded, they get uploaded to the website, and then that gets compared to the previous uploads. And so then on our website, where we've got our task board that lists what our releases are, up at the next of each release title, we've also got this like report summary saying how many values have changed in the unit tests compared to the version that's currently live. That's been a lot of work to put together, but it is working well because it's enabling us to track stuff. Obviously we can't track everything with that, right? So that's going to resolve a lot of those very specific issues happening again, but it doesn't mean we can't get new things wrong. So in terms of the releases, we're also just going to be more sensible in terms of not biting off more than we can necessarily chew. We're also trying to be more generous with the time we're allocating to changes, so we're just giving ourselves more time, being more thorough on testing. We're also giving ourselves more time for testing, so a lot of these updates are actually being developed quite far in advance, and then testing has a long period of time to occur. We have done some experimental branch stuff. We haven't gone back to that recently because we're not really doing experimental features at the moment, but certainly if we are developing a feature that we think could potentially affect player creations, if we do that in the future, then we'd certainly be using the experimental branch. Then also, I mean, I think there's kind of like, I guess, developer communication as well in terms of how we're reviewing updates. We are trying to, and it is difficult to do this, but we're trying to basically review stuff kind of like as a separate pass or as a group. But that is difficult to implement because it's just very time consuming, and you know, it requires everyone to be available, and that's not frequently the case. So that is some of the things. I'm not sure if I've forgotten anything, but yeah, we have gone to a lot of trouble to make sure we don't have the exact same problems occur, and in fact trying to avoid new problems happening as well. Mark answered. Next question. What's next for Lua add-on API? So I mean, this video, you're not getting my reaction right now because we played. This video is pre-recorded and we played a while ago, but I was having the best time playing this multiplayer because I'd not seen a lot of these add-ons before, and I've watched The Thing, John Carpenter, an incredible film, the original one with Kurt Russell, and we arrived at this location at night. You just getting the vibes. It's just amazing. It's just fantastic fun. So I was really enjoying this, but it's also an add-on, right? In a minute I am going to go and find the radio and we're going to call in supplies, and a helicopter's going to turn up, descend to a low altitude, release the supplies and fly off again. I mean, it's so good. It's just the fact that a player has gone to the trouble, but the add-on API is working for this kind of stuff. The answer is, what is next for the Lure add-on API? I suppose as we add more features, we're going to want to enable API for it. You saw before as well in the video, there's an incredible creation that uses the radios to basically add gravity gun functionality. It's just mad. I just can't believe a player's managed to create that. It's just absolutely fantastic. So the API, there is a lot of stuff you can currently do with it. I think in terms of what's next, the honest answer is that we're going to I suppose we are using the board, so we do make changes and fixes. I know that there's I think WoW is on the issue tracker with an insane number of implemented requests. So thank you very much to them and all the other players who are using the issue tracker and getting their issues implemented. But most of those requests, I think, do relate to the Lure add-on API. So we've certainly been doing the improvements there, and there's been frequent improvements and fixes, or potentially adding new parameters on functions. I don't know whether we've been adding new functions. I think we've occasionally added new functions on request as well. But the next stuff would be that we'd want to add Lure add-on API support for any new features that we do where the add-on API makes sense. We don't have specific plan for specific new function set for a different part of the game or so on. But you know, that stuff could happen. I think expansive new features like that may want to become part of a major update. Unless it is just a one-off function, then that might be a minor update. I don't know. Next question from Stardust, asking hydrogen modular engine ? Or natural gas functions. I think this is similar to the petrol response. I appreciate the hydrogen stuff is fundamentally going to be a different kind of engine to diesel, but I mean, once you've got the hydrogen in the container, then it really is just fuel going into the engine. So I'm not sure we kind of want to do that stuff unless it's mechanically different, unless we're asking players to engage with different gameplay mechanics. If it's kind of a cosmetic thing where it's effectively the exact same as a diesel engine, except the fuel input is hydrogen and oxygen, well, I suppose there's already an air input, so I suppose you're just saying that it would just be the exact same code as diesel engine, but with hydrogen input instead. I don't really think that adds to the game, and I don't think the engines are realistic enough to necessarily warrant like that kind of distinction. So yeah, we're happy to do this stuff if we can get it to be kind of mechanically meaningful. I'm not convinced it is right now, so that isn't something that we're considering at the moment. Next question from Red, the wedge update. I mean, it's a two-word question. We know what you mean. You mean the 3x1 wedges, the 5x1 wedges. I think the reason we don't have more wedges is because it's the number of blocks. I think that we don't really want to just carry on adding more and more and more blocks. We don't really want wedges that are more pointy than the 4x1. Again, I guess we can talk a little bit about not Stormworks 2 later, but these are the kind of problems that I think are solved better by making fundamental changes to the fundamentals of the game rather than necessarily adding more blocks. I think adding more wedge blocks just means you just end up with like an insane number of wedges and components and pyramids, and you just end up like with a really hard time figuring out what the block you want is, and you can't find them. It's already like that, right? We've got 650 blocks, I think, possibly more, and we don't really. It's about trying to find a balance between the number of blocks and the utility of the blocks. Are 3x1 wedges, 5x1 wedges, and so on going to allow you to do stuff that you can't already do? I'm not convinced, but I do appreciate there are reasons to want the different wedges, and that is stuff we're interested in solving in future games. But ultimately, I think it's a smarter solution than just adding more components. I think really you just kind of want to change how the fundamentals of the building works, which is very difficult to do with Stormworks at this stage. Next question by AE86. High res displays making high quality dashboards is currently a pain. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with you. I think the limit on resolution really is based on performance, I suppose. You're using a Lua API, and I mean, we're getting a lot of value out of the Lua API, but Lua is not fast. It's not a fast language at all. And then when you look at the other end of it, which is that it might not even be the Lua that's slow, it might just be the style of render calls. The GPU API, the OpenGL API that we're using behind the hood to send the rendering to the device. To optimize that stuff, typically you just want to reduce the number of hardware function calls you're making by gathering up the data so that you're just sending a larger amount of data in a single call rather than lots of calls with a small amount of data in each. And that's very relevant for the Lua API, where you're rendering a line, rendering a quad, and each one of those is a separate hardware call. You're then saying, okay, well, if we do higher res displays, then we should probably add some different functions so that people can do the rendering in a way that's friendlier to the hardware. But then they've got to become graphics programmers, because then you end up talking about, well, okay, well, we're allocating GPU memory and we're filling it out with our primitives, and then we're uploading it, and then we're rendering it. And even if we add some utility to make that process simpler, it's still going to starting to get more and more complicated. And I think, again, it's a value thing, really. Are we delivering value to players by making that API more complicated, or is it becoming less usable? And then do we have two APIs now, the easy one and the hard one? And is that helpful, because you've got two things that do the same thing, right? Unless you know that one's only there because it makes it a bit easier, and one's there because it's faster, it kind of doesn't make sense, and it then becomes more confusing to get into the lower stuff. So I don't know whether we are going to implement the higher res displays at this point. I think it's just difficult to do, and it's just because there's the pros and cons trade-offs. So thank you though for that question, and again, stuff could change in the future. It's just that there are some cons to doing it, which makes me nervous to get started. Will you add fishing nets? We've already answered that one, but thank you very much. And the answer is that we're very interested in a bunch of fishing features for commercial fishing and otherwise. Will you change Steam exhaust back? So, Steam exhaust back. We do have some changes coming up in upcoming updates that are kind of, I guess I would say, cosmetic in nature. So we're looking at getting certainly the exhausts for engines to work properly, because currently they don't output smoke properly in some situations, and damaged engines, they currently don't emit black smoke, and I think we've got plans to fix those things. Steam exhaust, I'm not entirely clear what needs to be changed back there. I thought the steam whistle worked, I thought the exhaust port works for steam, I thought it rendered, so I'd be surprised if that doesn't work, so I'm sorry, I just don't fully understand. Are there plans for a petrol engine? We have done that one, so I'll mark that as answered. And oh my god, there's 5 pages of questions. We're only at page 1 and we've had 42 minutes. Guys, I'm going to go as fast as I can. I do want to answer everyone's questions. If I can. There's 5 pages. I'm probably not going to be able to, but I will do my best. In fact, at the end of this page I will shuffle, so if you've asked a question more recently, then it'll be fairer to everyone for getting their questions answered. Will we ever get railroad track blocks that could be used for creations like train ferries? Oh, that's a great one. I mean, I think the movable railroad would be awesome, and I would like it to be possible. We don't have anything on the board right now, but you know, it's a good feature request. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to note that down, and we do frequently, by the way, the process often with the support tracker, often like one developer will go through the support tracker and read all of the feature requests, read all of the bug reports. Some of them they'll just schedule immediately, understanding, oh yeah, that's a confirmed issue that needs to be scheduled. Other times they'll tag it for discussion with the team. We have these team meetings every so often, and we'll discuss features. So if you are submitting stuff on the support tracker, it does get reviewed. We don't respond to everything, and in fact if it's a feature request, it's unusual we would respond to it. Other than that doesn't mean that we have not seen it, and in fact often feature requests are getting read, they're getting reviewed, they're getting discussed in detail by the team, and they're even getting tasked and developed, and we'll just be getting on with that. It's probably best we don't kind of do live updates on that, because we also do work on feature requests and then abandon development because it's not working, or it's not working out as well as we would hoped, or the quality isn't high enough, and so on. So we do prefer to not announce stuff until release for those reasons. But I'll just note this down, railroad track block, because that would make a good series of minor updates potentially, or something like that. It's quite cool. I always liked the idea of I suppose train bridges that could be lifted up, and train turntables as well. Like it's a similar thing. It's a train rail path that can move effectively, and we don't have support for that at the moment. We've only got like the static ones. Next question: improve steam pistons and physics. So the steam pistons, I think, is working very, very similar to pre-space DLC. At least that's my understanding, and that's our testing, where we have literally set up a bunch of piston engines, loaded it in the old version, loaded the new version, and seen that the numbers are very, very similar. So the steam piston should be working as it was. Steam does tend to work better at low RPS, so it's frequently used to gear it up, and that's simply just because there's the mechanics going on internally. The steam is literally being driven by steam entering a piston, there being a pressure differential moving said piston, and then the valves changing via a valve rod, and then the pressure being released, and then the pressure being injected on the other side, potentially, depending on how you've set your steam piston system up. So we've tried to do that. I do think there's probably a bug on the train pistons. I think someone gave us a really good report on that. That's something that's being looked at. But otherwise, I don't know. I think we don't want to start reworking existing stuff if it's going to break players' vehicles. A lot of players are very sensitive to that, and rightly so. Hundreds of hours, thousands of hours are going into some vehicles in some cases. Unless there's a major benefit, we're not going to break vehicles at this point. So I don't know whether that's something we'll be looking at. That's the first page. I'm going to click shuffle, and we've now got a reorder. Really sorry if you were the next question, but I think it just needs to be fair. I won't click shuffle again, so new questions will go on to the end, and it's unlikely we're going to get to them all, but I will keep going. Are you aware of the JSI fishing add-on? Is that the one that I am playing in this video, and is that the one that Prof Incognito did a video on? If so, yes. Otherwise, no. I think there might be more than one fishing add-on, so I'm not 100% sure which one it is. Next question, are there plans for a hydrogen engine? I think that's been answered. Will the issues with catalytic converters, gas smoke and general life support be addressed? Yes, they will. So catalytic converters, let's have a quick look. Where's the fix happening? I don't think it's next week. It might be in 3 weeks' time. We might have a catalytic converter change. Because we've been looking at a bunch of the fluid stuff. Now, it depends what you mean by the issue with catalytic converters. At the moment, I think, or at least after the change in 3 weeks / currently, I can't remember what the details are, guys. We've got so many changes in the air, and there's 100 megabytes of code in Stormworks, so I can't remember every single line of code. I think catalytic converters convert 3% of the carbon dioxide in the catalytic converter, and they convert that 3% 60 times a second. So if you've got high flow through the catalytic converter, it's basically slowly absorbing the carbon dioxide from the gas, and that's the mechanic we've got. I think that value used to be higher. I think 3% does kind of make sense. It's not meant to completely destroy all carbon dioxide, it's just meant to absorb some. And I think that's working as intended. Gas smoke, yes, that's getting fixed in 3 weeks, I think. General life support, I'm not fully sure what that means, but the other things we do have changes for coming up. Next question, will we ever get rotating warning lights? Well, yeah, that is nice, isn't it? I suppose that is a cool component that we could do. Yeah, I guess we're talking about like a spotlight that rotates. I suppose from a performance point of view, it doesn't necessarily have to cast shadows. It could be like a short range and stuff. So that's something that could happen. I'll throw that down on my list here. Rotating warning lights. Right, that's written down. Will we get a weapons armor revamp or weapons DLC 2, stuff like a proper armor block? Not planned at the moment. Yeah, I've seen like the armor requests. It's just difficult, isn't it? Because I think really what we're talking about is making a second version of every single component that can be armor. Because just making a regular block that's armor isn't really enough. You need the wedges, you need the armor version of the wedges, and then you need the armor version of the pyramids. Then you need the armor versions of everything else. So I don't know, it's just, I guess the fundamental of Stormworks is that your blocks are interchangeable / generic, and when we start making blocks where they need a specific variant for a specific purpose, it kind of starts to like break the fundamental design principle in a way. And I know in this context it makes sense to have like a new set of blocks that are for armor, but when you go into a different context, it's really not very helpful at all. And the nature with Stormworks is that there's just hundreds or thousands of contexts of how you can play the game, whether you are making military vehicles, or whether you're making search and rescue vehicles, or whether you're making trains, or whether you're making cargo ships, or whatever you're making. There's so many different contexts, and I think the blocks being potentially useful in multiple contexts is a fundamental design quality that is probably a good principle to keep hold of and keep going. Not that I don't understand the need for it, and again, in a future game, different materials, building from different materials could potentially make sense, but I think it's slightly relating to, I guess, the limitations you're getting with a block-based game. You don't want to have endless blocks. You want the blocks to be generic and be able to fit in different slots, in different types of vehicle, and still be useful. And will you go back to revisit things such as radars or windows, like add fails Windows mod? So I'm not going to kind of confirm or deny anything here, but I think this is, you know, the mods are just amazing. Like, a lot of the mods that the players have created and these custom components, and just the effort that's gone into making them as well. Like I know a lot of people have discovered, honestly I think Carrot Command was programmed from scratch. It just happens that that's just how I write a mesh texture, a mesh format. So the file wasn't exactly the same, but it was similar enough that you could use the Carrot Command 2 modding tools to start to import some of these meshes. But I think, even before we did that, some players reverse engineered the mesh files. Like, the technical energy and effort that's gone in has really been something. Would we like to support that more? I think in the future I would hope that we do, and that there can be better support for player created mods of that nature. Obviously there's lots of different mods that can be already made. We're already looking at some in this video, but certainly that stuff would make sense. In terms of revisiting radars, I think it's a question of, are we getting good value in terms of what we're adding there? Because obviously revisiting radars effectively means, I think in this context, deprecating the existing radars and just releasing a new set of radars that work differently, because ultimately otherwise we'll just break players' radar systems, wouldn't we, if we just changed how the outputs work and how the behavior works. A lot of radars have a matching microprocessor with a big load of Lua inside for processing the data. If we change the data, then that microprocessor is useless, and none of the radars work anymore. So I don't know whether we're just going to rework radar, but certainly the Windows stuff sounds pretty cool. Will we see ability to cool below ambient temperature at some point? Yeah, that's interesting. A nice cryo cooler. I'll write it down. Cryo cooler. Awesome. Review support tickets flagged LP and unban users that are flagged LP that are not spammers. So I mean, the support thing is difficult to cover. I think if you've not been delivering the Stormworks support, then it is difficult to understand. But yes, they're on the support tracker. After you've submitted a certain number of issues, the anti-spam filter does get activated, and it starts to look effectively at the result of your issues. And if you've got a lot of issues that are being marked as not an issue or duplicate or so on, then that potentially might decide that it's unlikely for your future issues to be accepted. Obviously that's not great. If I just explain, I guess, the rationale behind that, I suppose it is absolutely fine from our point of view for you to submit an issue and it turns out it's actually a duplicate. That's fine. Like, you know, that's absolutely okay. If you've submitted an issue and we just don't quite agree that there's some technical detail in there that's incorrect, that actually means it's not actually an issue, or you've just not had the information, or you're asking for a component that actually already exists, you just didn't know about it, that's fine as well. I think it's just when we're getting to the point where we've just got certain users, for example, that do have 60, 70, 80 issues that they've created on the issue tracker, and only a very small number, or perhaps even none of them, have actually resulted in a change to the game or the issue being accepted. And that's fine. I don't want to discourage anyone from submitting stuff. You know, we live off people's submissions and so on, and it's such a big help to development when players submit stuff. Some players are more successful at getting changes made to the game, and some players are less successful. It's just the fact of it, and it's not about us trying to punish players. It's not about us trying to say this player's done something wrong. It's just the reality is that we want to be fair to everyone, and we want to give everyone a fair chance at receiving support and having their feature requests considered, having their bug requests considered. And when there's a very small percentage of players who are submitting most of the bugs, sometimes that's great, because sometimes I gave the example of WoW before, and it's all gold, and it's all getting implemented, and they're a complete rock star, and that's fantastic. And then sometimes it's just not working out, and it could be any reason why. It doesn't have to be because they're malicious. It could just be because they've got a different vision for the game. It could just be because they've got a different point of view on what is a bug versus what is a feature request. Or it could just, it could be anything. And it's not about us saying who's right and who's wrong. I think it's so effective at helping us see issues in a fairer way, where we're able to look at new users' issues, or that user who's only submitted one issue. They're getting they're still not getting as much attention as the person who's submitted 100 issues, but they're still getting some attention. And it's about trying to create a fairer support system. That doesn't mean that those issues don't get looked at. They do go into the LP, that's low priority queue, and they do get considered. And if they are a valid issue that we think is going to result in a change, then of course they will actually get promoted out. So if you end up in low priority view, it's not the end of the world at all. You can find your way out. Sometimes you end up in the spam filter, but it's only because we've not actually read the issues that you've already submitted yet, and we'll read you will read your issues, and then you're out straight away. So it doesn't mean that you're in low priority and your issues aren't going to get sent, or you've been silenced or anything. We are still reading that stuff. We are reviewing it. It's just the case that if you are in low priority, it's probably not going to get unflagged unless it's particularly useful. So yeah, that's how that system's working. I just don't want anyone to be put off from submitting issues, because it's really important to us, and we're really grateful for players who are getting in touch and submitting those issues. So please don't worry about ending up in low priority, but please just also keep in mind that from our point of view, it's really important that I suppose we're having a productive relationship. So do get that reproduction data in that issue report if you can, and if there's a bug and we can reproduce it, we'd love to fix it, and we really are trying to get the bugs as low as possible. Sometimes stuff gets marked as like not within scope, and I think there is a certain limit on what was within the scope of what we're trying to get done. But we've also got a huge amount of stuff, right? I can't remember how many issues are on the support tracker right now. Is it 25k? And that's only the new support tracker. Yeah, it's 25,000. We had the old support tracker, and that had 20,000 issues on it as well. So there's a huge amount of work to be done, but it's just about making sure that we're delivering the best value for players, because it's important that we get that done. I've talked about that issue too long, so let's carry on with the questions. Are you going to add fishing nets or crab traps? Are you also going to fix steam boilers? I think I've answered all of that already. Next question, will we be able to create sounds using Lua? I think this is going to the similar stuff before. We're talking about Thales modern stuff. I think basically there's the Storm loader and stuff, isn't it, which is basically the file modding side of things. We were interested in thinking about that stuff. I don't know whether it's going to happen or not, but that would be cool, right? I'm in support of that. I think that like some more kind of official way of getting these kind of file modifications in, where you can potentially mod sounds, you can potentially mod meshes, you can potentially mod components. That'd be cool. That'd be really nice. Is it going to happen in one magic update soon? Definitely not. Could it potentially happen over a bunch of updates over the following years? It potentially could. No promises. Next question. Are you planning a new game? And if so, is it a Stormworks 2? Very pleased you asked this, because I love clarifying. We are making not Stormworks 2, and that's basically all we've announced. And I think the strategy here is basically just to manage players' expectations. It's really difficult to deliver on a sequel. We've obviously been really lucky with Stormworks. It has been successful, but it's also absolutely colossal. Other games just don't have as much source code as we've got. They don't have as broad a world where you can do so many things. They don't have so many mechanics, and in some ways that's like, you know, a great attribute of Stormworks. In some way it's also its own worst enemy, right? Well, we've just tried to do too much. So I think in the future what we'd like to do is a not Stormworks 2 game. I think we want to do something that's fundamentally different, but at the same time potentially still has vehicle building mechanics and other stuff. And I think it's about doing less to a higher quality. And the risk there, though, is I think a lot of people will nod and say, yeah, that's fantastic, that's exactly what we want. We want a game that's a little bit like Stormworks, but fresh and new, and it does less, but to a higher quality. But then the reality, of course, is that we're talking about like a lot less. Like, it's taken like 9 years for us to get Stormworks where it is right now. If we want to release a new game in the next kind of couple of years, if we want to like invest 3 years in a new game and then release it, then it's only going to have a third of the content of Stormworks. And then if we're saying, well, actually we're only going to work at half, we're going to spend twice as long on each component to get it like higher quality, then that means you're only getting 1.5 years, which is, what, off the top of my head, that's a sixth of the content of Stormworks. And you think about what that means. It means that all of this stuff that you just think is fundamentally part of Stormworks is just not going to be in the new game. And that's the reality, is that there is not going to be a Stormworks 2, because it just can't be followed. It's too expansive. There's just too much we can do in the game. There's too many mechanics, there's too many systems. So it's about doing less to a higher quality, and then also doing stuff fundamentally different. As I was talking before, I think there's a limitation on block building in terms of what we can achieve with that. I think there's better ways to build vehicles. I think there's better ways to build the world. I think there's a lot of cool stuff we can do, but we need to maybe move the goalposts a little bit. So if you're hoping for a game that's going to follow up with Stormworks 2, that's going to replace Stormworks, that's not going to happen. And that if we do release a new game, it'll be alongside Stormworks, and we'll carry on supporting and we'll carry on developing Stormworks, because ultimately there's still loads we can do with Stormworks. It's still a game we're really excited about, still really enjoy developing. But then there's also all this fundamental stuff which I've talked about earlier, where it's like, oh, that doesn't quite work in Stormworks just from a fundamental point of view. It really, we need to kind of go back to the drawing boards to make that change. And that's a new game is a great opportunity to say, hey, well, let's go back to the drawing board and let's do all this stuff in a better way. But just keep in mind that does mean letting go of like 90-95% of what's in Stormworks. And it's easy said than to be seen. It really is. It's not going to be Stormworks. It's going to be a different game. Yeah, that's the strategy there, and I'm very happy to discuss that. I haven't really given any specifics away. I'm super excited about the game, but I just want to manage players' expectations that content-wise, it's just going to be very, very different. Mechanics-wise, it's going to be very different. It's just going to be fundamentally different kind of vehicle builder, different kind of game experience, and potentially a lot more limited in terms of the expanse of what you can do and what you can build and where you can go. It's just fundamentally a different thing. We'll release more details when we're about to release something, and that's not now. Next question. Hey, why don't you consider adding gas spawners in Stormworks? Yeah, we will consider that. That might / should happen. / might already been worked on. I don't know. But yeah, I think I'm on the same page as you. Giorgio, I would like that to happen. Additional add-on GUI functions, even just wider custom width pop-ups would be helpful for message of the days. Yeah, so this server stuff. The server stuff, I suppose, one of the first things I mean to get around to doing here is just releasing some information to just kind of communicate, I guess, the dilemma we've got with multiplayer. We've got certain players saying, hey, there's this exploit where someone can crash a server, or like, oh Christ, that's awful. And then got other players saying, well, we've got this issue where players can spawn the flares, and it's like, oh no. And we're surprised because we just never intended for multiplayer to be used, I guess, in kind of this, I guess I'm going to describe it as this 2B 2T style, which is kind of this Minecraft server style thing where you've kind of got like everyone is joining and it's kind of like an open world game, and that wasn't really our intention. I think our intention with multiplayer really was to allow players to kind of cooperate and potentially crew vehicles together, or crew a small number of vehicles together, or work together. So I think a lot of this stuff where we're talking about, hey, we need to fix these issues related to supporting these open servers where people are joining and going off and playing on their own. Yeah, we just never imagined, and obviously it kind of makes sense the multiplayer will be played that way, and that's how a lot of servers are wanting to run. It's just there's certain technical issues. I think while we're talking about multiplayer, I will just quickly also say, so in terms of answering this question, I don't know whether we'll add that add-on GUI. I'm happy to consider it as a feature request if you want to request it on the support tracker. If you haven't already, maybe you have. But going on to just talk about the multiplayer issue a little bit, Stormworks multiplayer is sensitive to packet loss and bandwidth throttling. So if your interconnection is poor Wi-Fi with poor signal, or mobile internet, or just has really high packet loss to the server, or you're running out of bandwidth, your multiplayer experience isn't going to be good. You can see here in this video. Oh, is it? Do I need to press restart? Doesn't seem to be playing. Weird. Okay, we're off. We seem to be working again. The multiplayer stuff is sensitive to the multiplayer, so you can see I'm playing multiplayer here. I had a great experience in this video session, playing with someone who's in another continent. We both had a great time, no problems whatsoever. Obviously we've got quite a bit spawned in here, loads of vehicles and stuff, but there's not loads of players, there's not loads of vehicles all across the map that have just been forgotten about from 2 hours ago. But the multiplayer is working in this context with decent internet connections. If you're trying to play and you've got high packet loss, our multiplayer system kind of relies on you not having packet loss in order to be able to handle the humongous amount of bandwidth required. Even though we're doing loads of compression tricks, there's just so much data to synchronize that you're just not getting done in other games, because these vehicles are so complex, there's so many parts to them, there's so much data flowing around these vehicles. Synchronizing it is a massive challenge. We don't have the bandwidth to spend on basically packet loss resistance netcode, because that's just going to double, triple, quadruple the amount of bandwidth, and ultimately, while we might help some players who have high packet loss because they're playing on Wi-Fi, for example, or at the other side of the building to the router, I played this on Wi-Fi and I was absolutely happy, I was fine. But obviously if you've got really high packet loss, and I mean really high, then it's going to cause you quality of experience issues. So please, if you are having multiplayer issues, please do have a look at your packet loss, because that might solve it. Otherwise, let's carry on the questions. Will incendiary warheads be added to the weapons DLC at any point? I like that idea. I'm not going to say never. It's a cool idea. I suppose. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's a cool idea though. I like it. It would make a good minor update, wouldn't it? A minor update feature probably wouldn't be too difficult to do. Do you plan on adding? I'll add that to the. I'll write that one down. Incendiary warheads. Do you plan on adding more things like underwater like missions and NPC submarines? Underwater gameplay. I suppose my reaction here is just that players tend not to make submarines so much as other vehicles. I think boats, planes, helicopters are a lot more popular than submarines. I do love the submarines that have been made. There's so many absolutely incredible ones, and like they've got working torpedoes, and they've got like moon pools, and they got so much incredible stuff, and they got the sonar systems, and obviously we've done a lot to support that. We have done some underwater missions. We've obviously done the oil pipeline repair stuff, and there is some stuff in there, and we are doing more mission content, so that is coming, of various types. I can't say for sure whether any of it is specifically underwater though, so I don't know is the answer. We don't probably have anything specifically underwater planned, so I'm not sure if we'll do any more underwater missions soon. NPC submarines, I mean, it's awesome fun, right? I think from our point of view though, it just kind of, it's going to catch players a bit I think players are basically going to get blown up by a torpedo and not understand why, and that's a little bit the issue of it, is that you're being killed by an A vehicle you can't see. So I think there's just that aspect of it that I think it might be better if that kind of thing was maybe like, if there is demand for it, then you'd kind of hope a player would potentially make an add-on on the workshop or something, because it's very feasible to do that. Or even just mod our RAI vehicle stuff. But I think for the base game, the NPC submarines is a little bit tricky, because I think players would just be getting blown up by torpedoes that they didn't see and stuff like that, and not really understand what the hell happened. I'm on page 2 now. I'll quickly try and whiz through. I'll end this in probably about 15 minutes, but we'll try and get as many questions answered as we can. What about different size steer wheels and more valuable value of the throttle lever? So you can click on the throttle lever to change the min and max mapping for the values, so you just go into the property of the throttle lever to do that. Different size steer wheels, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's about adding cosmetic parts. I'm not sure. I think there's a really good kind of solution to basically adding support, maybe to be able to mod stuff like this in, rather than us necessarily start to add a new steering wheel seat that does exactly the same as the other steering wheel seat and it just looks cosmetically different. I think that's probably not a great change to make to the vanilla game, just because we're trying to keep things like mechanical rather than adding cosmetic parts. Could we get more in-depth modular engines, different behaviours and more choice for parts, etc.? I mean, honestly, probably not. I still kind of regret the modular engine stuff. I think it's poorly implemented. I think we could have done a lot better with that. At this stage, it's very difficult to change and rebalance it, because obviously we don't want to break players' creations, and ultimately it's possible to make an engine work, and players have gone to a great deal of effort to do that. We do have the example engines in the presets. I just think from a gameplay point of view, it's not that the modular engines don't necessarily make sense, it's just that they're a bit of a black box, and so it's hard to develop a working one, because if they don't understand, you don't necessarily understand why. If they don't work, you don't necessarily understand why. And I think it's okay to have these sophisticated, complex mechanics as long as what's going on is being explained to the player, and I think we've done a poor job of that. And I think it's a difficult problem to solve. So I think more in-depth modder engines for Stormworks probably not going to benefit too many players, in my opinion. And really, it's about giving players what they want in the best quantity possible. I think we're not really going to be helping too many players by making that change, in my opinion. Will you add a button clean oil spill to the custom menu? Yes. I can't promise when, but we will do that. Do you plan to make any changes, such as adding suspension to the track? I wonder what the track is. Is this train track? Could be train track, and we want suspension on train wheels. I'm just going to answer it as if it's train wheels. I don't think we have any plan for changing train wheels at the moment. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm just thinking what would be if I was going to change something on trains. I think the thing I'd like to do is maybe make the tracks Beziers, so that you just don't get the sharp turns when you go over one of the train line nodes. But we don't have anything planned for trains at the moment, I don't think. I'll just note that down. I think train Bezier would potentially be, because I'm just thinking about suspension. Why would somebody be asking that for train track? I'm not really sure. Maybe it is just because the changes in direction are a bit stiff, or where you're kind of going up a hill and stuff as well. That is a little bit uncomfortable, because the height change can be uncomfortable for the train wheels and stuff. But I guess another good component would potentially be like a train connector that can accommodate a fair bit of movement for trains moving around and stuff as well. I don't know, but I think we'd be looking at talking to players who make trains in terms of getting feedback to know really what are the next steps there. If that's what you're asking, I'm not sure. Any chance for any of these? Gimbal radar, gimbal pivots, IR seekers, optical sensors. So gimbal radar, I think, is already effectively how radar works, right? You can already steer radar, can't you? There's an input value, is there? I thought there was. Or is it just sweeping constantly? It might just be sweeping in the pre-programmed way, mightn't it? I see. Yeah. It's probably a good idea, isn't it? Gimbal radar. What else have we got? Gimbal pivot, IR seekers, optical sensors. So gimbal pivots aren't supported in Bullet natively. There's certainly the point-to-point pivot, and there's this 6 degrees of freedom pivot. However, I don't think they've got motors on them. They don't got like drivers. So in terms of having like a powered joint, that wouldn't be supported by Bullet, so we'd have to develop that ourselves. It's a bit tricky to do. IR seekers, I think we've got, because I think the IR sensor, we've got the IR missile sensor, I thought, and the optical sensor, I don't know whether optical sensors are planned. I don't think we've really got anything that represents optical sensors other than the IR sensor that we've already got for missile parts, I think. Next question, will you add geomagnetic storm to this game? It could cause RX and electricity disruptions. That's cool. I think we've already got like the radar, the lightning stuff, where you get lightning strike. There's like the EMP effect, and it can trip your breakers, and it can also disable your electrics for a short period of time. That works quite well because there's like the visual communication for it. I think what we're really nervous about doing is adding complex mechanics but then not explaining to the player what's going on, because then it just feels like it's frustrating, the game's broken, it's not clear what's going on. So we'd have to be able to I guess communicate this geomagnetic storm, so I don't really know how to do that, but we certainly, like the RX electricity disruption could be good for like lightning storms and stuff, but I don't know is the answer. It's a little bit of a niche request. Again, we've got so much stuff that's just going to affect so many players in kind of a broad way. I'm not sure whether that kind of feature is going to make its way to the top of the list. But I do like it. It's cool, and I like the way you're thinking mechanically and stuff, because these mechanical things are what the core of Stormworks is about, I think. Optimizations when? Oh dear. Why major update adds one block? Question mark. Fixes. I mean, you've all seen this kind of comment, I suppose. Obviously, anyone who's read the patch notes anytime in the next 5 years knows that we're constantly implementing fixes. My apologies for something having to be fixed in the first place, but we are doing our best to reduce new bugs entering. So overall, the game is making progress, and the number of total bugs is coming down. But yes, we are constantly implementing fixes. For some reason, it's a phenomenon. I can't tell you why, but yeah, some people like to pretend that we don't fix bugs. I don't know. It's very popular. Loads of people do it. It's bizarre. Then we've got major update adds one block. Well, it did add a block, yes. Why? I guess it's because yeah, what an argumentative question. Obviously, we added all the fish mechanics and the fish storing in hoppers and stuff. I do completely agree that it was a smaller update, and I'm definitely not going to apologise for that. I think that is probably a good idea moving forward if we're doing the major updates regularly, but we're just being a bit more sensible and they're a higher quality and they're better thought through. I think that's really good progress. I don't think we should be biting off more than we can chew in the future. So I think the major update certainly does add some content, but yeah, fully conscious that it was a smaller major update, and I might just suggest that major updates are probably going to be smaller in the future, but that doesn't mean we can't stop doing them. It doesn't mean that we can't, you know, overall do in 2 major updates what we might have done in 1 major update previously. Like, yes, the content's still going to come, and I think that's what matters. And it's very important that we get the quality stuff done. Optimizations, when, is a complicated question, but it's also a frequent comment made. You dig into it, and sometimes it's a really valid customer complaint that they've got really good hardware and there's some kind of driver issue or something going on, and then sometimes it's because they're spawning ridiculous colossal vehicles and we wouldn't expect anyone's PC to be able to keep up, and sometimes it's because they don't meet the minimum spec requirements. So, you know, sometimes it is I guess the customer's fault for not having the minimum specs. It is available on the store page. It's difficult, so, you know, not necessarily every customer understands what those specs mean. It is complicated, so, you know, it's sorry about that, you know, because it is a game that looks quite simple, and I suppose actually when you look at the minimum specs, it does require a modest machine. Obviously, time goes on though. That spec requirement has obviously come down because the game's 5 years old now. We haven't increased the minimum specs. Otherwise, there are certainly valid issues. I know that one of the common problems that is a legitimate complaint is where the game spawns 2 pieces of physics inside each other. That causes absolute disaster for physics performance. It doesn't happen very often. When we do find it's happening, we fix it. It has gone wrong a few places, particularly in the past. It's been known for missions to spawn inside each other. I think we've fully solved that now. Certainly we've had several bugs related to missions spawning inside missions, and that does cause a legitimate performance problem. But otherwise, the performance of Stormworks, I think when you consider the complexity of the physics, it's pretty well optimized. The physics does perform well for what it is, which is very detailed, lossless physics, with a lot going on in the world and a huge world. So if you are spawning moderate-sized vehicles that fit within the workbench, and it doesn't have 100 lights in, and you're not getting the performance warnings, for example, then you should be experiencing reasonable performance. Certainly, if you're not, then we'd be very pleased to know about it. Certainly, in this video stream, I do have a fairly good PC here actually, but yeah, I had a very, very good experience, and we had a lot of stuff spawned in and stuff. Let's carry on. We've been to the Arctic, the desert, and now space. Any chance we can revisit the deep? Well, I would say, Geronimo, that we kind of have, haven't we? Because we did the underwater caves update, didn't we? And that wasn't even that long ago, where we added the underwater trench, we added the underwater caves, the underwater mining. Certainly, you know, there's loads of stuff we could potentially do more there. But it's argumentative because we have done that. Like we did the, and that was a great update. I really enjoyed that one with the Arctic, the sort of Circle of Fire or whatever it's called. Weapons DLC overhaul, more range, less spread. Addition of mortar cannon and grenade launcher. We certainly could boost the accuracy of weapons, couldn't we? Because they are a bit annoyingly spready. So maybe that is subject to balance. Mortar cannon and grenade launcher. I'm not a mad fan of adding more overpowered handheld weapons, simply because it's a vehicle building game, and I think a lot of the utility you can get from designing really cool vehicles that can do a lot. So I'm not sure about like powerful handheld weapons like a grenade launcher, but certainly looking at the, I'll write this one down, weapon spread is probably a good. We're not working on this, so you've just suggested it, I've written it down, I think it's a good idea. Will there be more life in the world going forward, like corals, towns, people? There's no plans for this at the moment. I think there is. It's difficult to control the performance of the game, and obviously if we spawn too many players, if we have that kind of stuff where there's more physics objects in the world, that's going to potentially start to create places where the performance starts to break down too much. Then also with towns, I think the detail here is, I think a lot of players will understand that, for example, when their train goes through a tunnel, the physics does have a performance impact, and effectively putting physics inside another physics where it's surrounded by another physics is computationally problematic. So where we start to say towns where there's lots of buildings that you can go inside, and larger buildings and buildings you can go between and things like that, you just start to create more and more, I guess, painful physics situations where it's a little bit tricky. So I think that we need to be engine work done there. I think that it's probably quite a big ask. I do like the suggestion that we would, however, like develop the life in the world, and that's something we've obviously been trying to do for years. We've added the animals, we've added the AI vehicles and so on, and you know, we've had some success there. But yeah, you're right. You know, I like the vision for adding more life to the world. I think it's just there is a big technical challenge there that we're scared about causing performance issues. Player desyncing in multiplayer, F2 helps a bit but not ideal. Players desyncing. Players shouldn't really be desyncing, but there are certainly multiplayer bugs. If you teleport, this is a known issue. I would say this is kind of, I would probably argue, potentially not a bug. But if you teleport, then it might take a while for the game's netcode to basically catch back up again to resync stuff. If you teleport from, basically if you're miles away from something, then it's updating at a really infrequent interval. If you then teleport right next to it, then it'll carry on updating that interval until the next interval point where it will then speed up. So when you immediately teleport somewhere, the vehicles might take half a minute or a minute or so to fully become smooth, and that's just the nature of how that, but it's massively beneficial in terms of compressing the netcode by having infrequent updates for vehicles that are a long distance away. So it's probably best that that carries on working that way. Otherwise, I think really, if you are experiencing a multiplayer issue, please do report it on the support tracker, and please just give us that detail that we need to be able to reproduce it. And if we obviously understand how to reproduce the issue, we'll be very happy to go in. I had a great time playing multiplayer earlier. I didn't experience desync, and neither did the person I was playing with. So yeah, I don't know. We do need the reproduction info, and then we can look at specific issues and fix the specific issues, because we'd love to just improve the quality of experience there if we can. Will there be more typable letters in chat? I want to write in my language. So you should be able to write in your language. Okay, well, not necessarily, right? Like, how many different characters are there? So we do have the language modding support. Now, language modding support uses the no-to font from when we added it, and we found some, I think it's about 16 megabytes, this font file. It's a specific no-to font that supports a bunch of characters. However, there are quite a few languages where they don't have the characters. So I think we are using the Chinese, Korean, Japanese no-to font, which is a particularly small one. It's only 16 meg, but it means we can include it in the game package, and then anyone with language modding can get those characters in the game. However, not every single language is using those characters. I think we've already got support in the base font for Cyrillic, and potentially Greek characters too. But then there's some languages that just have a huge number. I don't know whether we've got Arabic. There's a lot of African languages where there's like written script that we don't have, where they're not using Western characters, obviously. And then there's various in Asia where they're also not using Western characters, but it's not Chinese, Korean, or Japanese either. So yes, there are characters you don't have. I think what we'd say there is probably the font situation is a technical issue, because supporting every character with one font is pretty much impossible. If you start looking into it, you just have to have like gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of font files to be able to support all the characters. And you know, Google is struggling to produce a font that has them all. It's just a massive challenge. So what I'd probably say is that support for that would come if we did the file modding stuff, where you could potentially mod your font file and have a different font file, in which case you could potentially install a font file with your characters in. Other people wouldn't be able to read it because it would be local to you, but you would at least have those character values. It's really complicated. There's over 100,000 characters. It's really difficult to get them all. If it was simple as just downloading a font file, we would do it. It's just, we obviously can't make the game package like 5 gigabytes just to support every possible font, because that would make the game download like 10 times bigger. Will there be an expansion to the weapons DLC? I'll just do the last 5 questions on this page. I'm very sorry if I don't get to everyone's question. We'll just quickly whiz through these. Even more weapons or flexible ammo belts. Flexible ammo belts is like a physics feature. I don't know, it kind of, it's cool. I like the vision for it, but I think it's probably beyond the scope of what we're trying to do. It kind of introduces a new type of physics, a new type of physics problem that we don't have elsewhere. I don't think it is a rope. I think just adding a rope isn't going to suffice, because ropes are floppy and it's just not going to look correct. So I think it would have to be a new special thing just for that one feature. I don't know. I don't think we've got immediate plans to do flexible ammo belts this year. Could happen in the future, I just don't know. Expansion to the weapons DLC. A few people have asked for this. I think if there is demand for us to go back and do more weapon stuff, then great. I think there's just a little bit of pressure on us to make sure that we are doing stuff that benefits all players. So doing DLC specific stuff, but that said, a huge number of players are buying the DLC. It's incredibly successful, especially the weapons one, and you can see why it's a really meaningful DLC that allows you to do a lot in the game. So maybe we should, is the answer. Maybe we could do updates that are specific to the weapons DLC. I think we have in the past. It's just an infrequent thing. I would hope so, is the answer, but again, we don't have immediate plans. Signal control options, i.e. pumps, noise, on, off, winch speed, etc. Pumps, noise, on, off. I don't really know what that means. It means you don't want the audio sound for pumps. I mean, I don't know. I guess that would probably be better delivered. If people really want to turn noise off for their pumps, then file modding may be the way to go. I don't know really. Like, we're talking about quite a fine-grained setting of detail. Game mechanics, it doesn't make sense that you'd be able to just disable the noise on a pump. It's not like a realistic request, so I don't know about that one. Winch speed, I think, is a good suggestion. I don't know whether that's already on the board. I don't know whether that's something we've discussed. It does ring a bell. I don't know whether we're doing winch speed. I'll note that down, and we'll discuss this list of stuff I've noted down in the next developer meeting. Can you add a way to power the stream driving wheels using diesel engines? Asked by the Golden Hammer. I see. So we're suggesting that you want to have a diesel engine and drive the steam wheels. I'm going to say probably not, no, because they're the steam driving wheels, aren't they? That they look like the steam train wheels and stuff. And we've got all the other wheels for using with the other types of engine. So no, I think the steam driving wheels are for steam power. Yeah, the steam power wheels, aren't they? They're specifically not meant to work with diesel engines, but you've got a ton of other wheels to use with diesel engines, so I think that's okay. Thoughts on texturing the ground to make it easier to see? Yeah, it can be hard to judge altitude, you're absolutely right. I suppose it's like part of the game style, isn't it? The art style. Yeah, because it can be difficult, and often you're relying on shadows and things. But it's obviously the art style of the game. You can see on the video right now. I think the creator of this building has actually like they've just painted the different tiles slightly differently colours, so you kind of get a little bit of noise in the floor and stuff, which might make sense as something to add. I don't think that's a terrible idea. I don't know whether we would do it either. It's an interesting thought. I suppose it is cosmetic change. You do have the shadows that you can rely on, or otherwise you're doing mechanics, vehicle mechanics. It's a difficult one. I hadn't really thought about it, but you do raise a valid issue. Guys, thank you very much. We're 100 minutes in. We've done 100 minutes of questions. I'm very sorry. There is 3 pages of questions left. We haven't even got halfway through. I do hope I've managed to answer your question. If not, my apologies. Thank you everyone for coming. I think this went reasonably well, but please do let us know your feedback, I guess, in the comments to the Steam post for this event. And we'll take a look at what you think, because we could do this on a regular basis. If you think that the website could be changed, or you have feedback on how we could do it differently in the future, we'd love to hear it. And yeah, this could become a frequent feature, you know. It's quite an efficient way of us to communicate with players. We do like to do it, and I think doing it in a block like this is great for us, because it's 90 minutes of my time, and it means that the rest of the time I can just be focused on the product and working on the updates and the code and the changes and so on. So that's fantastic. But thank you very, very much for everyone coming. A special thank you to obviously the development team for their incredible hard work. They are working extremely hard on Stormworks, so thank you to them, and then also, you know, everyone else who has been helping. The Discord community mods are just fantastic. They're such nice guys, and it makes a huge difference having them there for the community. And of course, the players and the workshop creators and the YouTubers. A special thank you for all the feedback you've been giving us, and the video feedback is a great format. What I would just say there, everyone's format. Even if you're just submitting feedback on Sport Tracker, that is the preferred way to do it. We really appreciate that. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm just kind of noting the additional effort required to make these videos. Absolutely fantastic. So I do appreciate those as well. And yeah, obviously, you know, the workshop creators in the showcased in this video. I had so much fun recording this video. It's just incredible to see this stuff, and the creations just keep getting better and better, and the standard is now just insane. So yeah, congratulations. It's truly awesome. Well, I do hope we'll do more of these. So thank you very much, everyone, and take care of yourselves, and we'll catch soon. Bye bye.
Alright, I'm back. Alright, so that was the Q&A for, I think this is the first one for 2024. So, I'm not going to talk too much today, because someone's going to watch the end of this video. So I'll probably do another video just about the Q&A and some things are said. But since I'm here, I might as well just do some things that popped out of my head. And first of all, it seems they are trying to do things slightly different in 2024. As you've seen in the past month or so, I guess, they've been mentioning other content creators like 454, and Professor Incognito's video was placed inside a Friday update, which is amazing. Finally, they are actually starting to interact with the community just a little bit. That's good. They hate me, but that's okay. At least they're doing the other channels, so that's good. And the other thing that kind of stuck out is there was an acceptance of acknowledging that there are mods in the world. So it sounded like there was something going on with thinking about mod support. Now, I don't know if that's just me reading too much into it, but it sounded like they acknowledged the mods of Thales' Windows, or Thales, or Talus, however you want to say his name, and it sounded like there was possibility in the future, who knows when, for mod support. Oops, what's going on here? Oh, it started talking again. But yeah, so it sounds interesting. I think there was another thing that popped out, but I forgot what it was now. Crap, I don't remember what it was. I'll have to look at the video back and see what it was. But so it sounds like there's some interesting things that they are thinking about, and it sounds like they are actually trying to change. Oh, they talked about testing again. So it sounds like they have some kind of test vehicle that sends data to a page or something, and then they compare it to previous tests. So it does sound like they have made changes since the Space DLC. I do not think that they're going to go too much farther than what we're seeing right now, with maybe a little mentioning of a content creator or maybe a builder. They still have avoided JSI and the fishing mod. They've also avoided talking about, you know, race teams and possibility for race tracks for Stormworks. They've also avoided, you know, anything that sounds like map modifications that are going to add something for those groups, like race drivers, or, I mean, there's a trucking thing I got to go check out. But, you know what I'm saying, like these little specialized Discord communities that are doing stuff specifically, you know, like truck driving, fishing, and racing. And there's another one out there, but I can't remember what it was. It used to be like search and rescue. What was that server? Do you guys remember? I don't remember. Maritime something or other? They used to do fishing or rescue missions? I don't know. But anyways, I'm going to let you guys go. I haven't eaten. I'm hungry. And yeah, so good things seem to be happening for 2024. I'm sure the fishing update will be fun for a bit. And hopefully they polish it as much as possible for releasing it. So there you go. So I'm Endo. Thanks for watching. If you want to watch this, it'll be in the live section later, and I'll be doing an update video at some point. So there you go. Later Walker, later Luke, and all the other folks that are here that I can't see your names. Oh, Dr. Southbound. So thank you very much, and I will see you next time on another video, which actually just dropped at 11 o'clock. So go watch the top 5 for Gearblocks top 5. There you go. Oh, that reminds me, I gotta do a video for that too. All the stuff. Okay, anyways, let me let you go. Bye.